Hi, I'm Nick, and we're going to be taking a look at brewing on the Gaggia Anima and Anima Prestige espresso machines. So not only will I show you how we can use our espresso and espresso lungo buttons to make one-touch bean-to-cup coffees, but also how we can program those buttons to our desired volume, covering the aroma strength or the overall strength and amount of ground coffee in your cup, and how you can do push and hold programming in ×2 brewing to satisfy the needs of anyone using these machines for coffee. So let's get into it. To start with brewing on the Anima, we'll take a look at our espresso. So this will be a traditional Italian style espresso. And if you want to make any additional changes other than those that we can make from our screen, you can go ahead and access the menu to change your drink temperature. And you can also use the grinder adjustment to grind more coarse or more fine depending on the results in your cup. It's worth noting that Gaggia uses something called the Gaggia adapting system. So after you brew a few shots, you'll find that your crema, your pucks, and your espressos in general will tend to be a bit more consistent and cohesive. That's because there's a learning algorithm inside these machines that gets more accurate to your current strength setting based on the number of times it brews. So it will be getting a little bit smarter. In a bit, I'll show you what your first shot of espresso might actually look like on a brand new machine. Now, aroma strength, which is this button right here on the bottom left, corresponds to the maximum amount of ground coffee being used in your shots. So the range is between 6.5 and 11.5 grams. And by pressing this button, you can see that our beans on the display illuminate, letting us know our current selection. Now, if you ever go beyond 5, that will show you the scoop icon. And that's how we would go ahead and load coffee in using the bypass doser. Now, I'm a highly caffeinated kind of guy, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to 5 bean strength and take a look at how you brew an espresso using the Gaggia Anima. And in one touch, we have delicious bean-to-cup espresso. So as I teased at the beginning of this video, I'm going to use a bit of movie magic to demo what a first shot might look like on your machine. And now I want to explain a bit about what's going on. The very first shot that you grind and brew is going to get the grinder being filled with coffee for the very first time, getting used to the hardness of your beans and your strength setting. So there's a lot of things that are happening that will require some of the automatic adjustment that the machine does to get your shots looking good. But just to give you a sense for what it might look like, I'm going to attempt to pull a shot that would be similar visually to what your first shot might look like. And now if you think this shot looks weak and watery, well, that's because it is. But one of the best things about Gaggia's super automatic machines is going to be that Gaggia adapting system. So unlike other machines, Gaggia will not require you to continue to make changes to your strength or to your grind. Simply by grinding and brewing several subsequent shots will improve the quality of the espresso in your cup tremendously. So if you have to toss that first shot, I forgive you. Go ahead and brew a few more. You'll be amazed at the results in your cup. We've seen espresso. Now let's take a look at espresso lungo. And this is going to be an opportunity to show off how we would program the beverage volume of either of these buttons. So the Anima uses a fairly straightforward process of simply pressing and holding your beverage selection to enter the machine's memory mode. So we'll see a memo icon appear on the screen, letting us know that the machine is about to remember the amount of liquid dispensed. So as that's happening, we will use our aroma strength button to confirm once the amount of liquid we would want has been dispensed into our cup. So we have our taller cup, we've got our spouts up. Let's go ahead and make a full cup of coffee in just one press. And just like that, we have been able to produce an entire cup of coffee with just the push of a button. And now I have to say that I'll use the term coffee somewhat lightly, as we actually have a delicious pressure brewed cup of long espresso with a still present layer of crema and coffee foam on top. And it's as simple as that to make any kind of programming changes that you need to the total amount of beverage in your cup. Now, the trick I'm about to show you is present in your user manual, but it will be featured with a little bit more pizzazz here in this video, and that is the ×2 brew function. Now, the Espresso and Espresso Lungo, and that goes for the Anima Prestige as well, feature a ×2 brew option that will grind and brew a drink twice in a row. Now, this can only be done using beans in the hopper, so you cannot use pre-ground coffee for a ×2 cycle. But all we need to do that for either our Espresso or Espresso Lungo is simply press the button and then wait about a half second or so and press it again. You'll see a ×2 icon appear on the screen, letting you know that the machine is about to brew a second time. Now, what we're going to do is press our espresso button twice. This is great because if you have guests who want the same drink as you can make 2 at once. Or let's say, for example, we've programmed our Espresso Lungo to half the volume that we want in our cup. Well, if we ×2 it, not only will you get your desired beverage volume, but now you'll get that with twice as much coffee strength as you would normally have done. So let's go ahead and press espresso twice, and we'll have the magic ×2. And we have perfectly brewed ×2. For my last trick, let's make an espresso with the bypass doser. Now, again, this is a chute on the top of the machine that allows us to load pre-ground coffee directly into the brew group. Now, the most common use for this feature is to load decaf coffee into the group when we have caffeinated beans in the hopper. Now, in order to do that, there's just a little bit of nuance that will go a long way in guaranteeing your successful use of this accessory. So we'll go ahead and start with our ground coffee. Now, you always want to make sure that the pre-ground coffee you're using is calibrated for espresso. So something that says espresso grind will let you know that the coffee will actually be fine enough to produce an authentic espresso with crema. If you use something that's ground more coarse, you'll simply get some brown water coming out of your machine. Now, the next important step is to make sure that we're actually using our calibrated scoop here. So not only is this used for adjusting our grinder, but also for guaranteeing that we use the appropriate amount of coffee in the bypass doser. You never want to use more than 1 level scoop of coffee when brewing with the bypass doser. If you do, you can overload the group and it will dump your shot, forcing you to do it again. The other thing to note is that you simply want to level this scoop but not compact it, which can also cause issues with brewing. So let's go ahead and scoop some of our coffee. So I like to start with a bit of a heaping scoop so that I can shake it, and that will help me fill any of the crevices in the scoop with that coffee. And then either using your finger or the flat edge of a knife, we can simply go ahead and level off that scoop. Now, we'll go ahead and press the aroma strength button so that we now have the scoop icon displayed. We'll go up to the bypass chute, simply position your scoop, and then I like to just take my index finger and tap along the tap of the scoop there. Get all our coffee into the chute, and now we'll go ahead and brew. And as you can see, you can still produce crema-rich shots of espresso using pre-ground coffee. So there are a couple of caveats to that. You do want to make sure that that coffee is still relatively fresh. Ground coffee loses its freshness and its CO2, which helps form the layer of crema much faster than whole beans. So if you have guests and your decaf has been sitting in the cabinet or the pantry for months on end, you may not get as pretty a shot as this one. But otherwise, that's how you would brew using pre-ground coffee on the Anima or the Anima Prestige.